Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 151 of the Tick Bootcamp podcast. Today, we are offering another special episode of our podcast where we are interviewing a former podcast guest who is starting a business designed to help people gain shortcuts on their Lyme disease journey. The title of this episode is the Podium Performance Program, an interview with Arianne Jones and Paige Lawrence. My name is Richard Johannesson.
And I'm Matt Sabatello.
So, Matt, we have Arianne Jones, who we interviewed in the past in the long form portion of our podcast. And what she showed us then was that she used the models that and the tools that she gained as an Olympic athlete to heal. She is now combining her successes with that of another Olympic athlete, Paige Lawrence. And the two of them have now created a program that's designed to help people with both their mindset and their performance and their nutrition so they can expedite their healing on their Lyme disease journey.
And Rich, this program is so exciting. I think back to when I was in my Lyme journey in the beginning, and I wish I had a program like this to help me. This program can help people at the beginning of their journeys or at the end of their journeys. It complements their doctor treatment very well and focuses on things like diet, wellness, mindset, self-talk, setbacks, and even remission.
So Paige and Arianne, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having us here.
We're so excited to hang out today.
So we are really excited to have you too. So Arianne, can you please share a little bit about your journey, just very quickly, because we are going to urge our folks to listen to your long form podcast, but just sort of quickly give everyone a thumbnail sketch of your journey.
Absolutely. Man, it's a hard question when people say, like, tell me your story in 30 seconds. And I'm like, I have had a lot of things happen.
Well, but we have your whole story out there already. We just need you to just tease them a little bit so they can go back and listen to that podcast, but just get to know you a little bit now when we move forward with talking about the cool thing you and Paige are doing together.
Perfect. So here it is in a nutshell. I was, in my past career, arguably a professional tobogganer. What I mean by that is I was an Olympic luge athlete. I was on the national team for 6 years. I'd competed at the Olympics in 2014. I won my first World Cup medal soon after that. I was on top of the world. I finally felt like I was hitting my stride in a sport that I never really felt like I belonged in. And then in 2014, I actually broke my back. Life-changing injury, game changer for me, changed everything in my life. I had to pivot my mindset, my nutrition, my perspective on life, everything. 8 months later, I ended up coming back to my sport and through a very tumultuous and difficult journey and winning my first ever gold medal, which a gold medal on any day is a great day. After going through that emotional, probably the lowest lows in my life, that was an incredible moment for me. So I thought in my brain, all right, I'm back. I did the hardest thing that I've ever done, and we're back better than ever. So the season for luge ended. It was about early spring. We started the dry land season for my sport of training indoor. And I all of a sudden started to get some very strange symptoms, crazy fatigue. And I trained for the Olympics. Like, I know what being tired's like. And this was very different. I'm falling asleep on the gym floor, body pain, all these strange symptoms that we go into a lot of detail in my first episode. Started getting these almost flu-like episodes that would keep me down for the count for 24 hours. And then I'd somehow bounce back up, but not quite as far, and go back to training. In a nutshell, I was getting worse and worse and worse every week. I was incredibly scared. I didn't know what was going on with my body. I felt completely out of control. At that point, I had a few people in my court that believed what was going on and trying to help me, but mostly I had a lot of my trusted kind of mentors, advisors, trainers tell me arguably that I was crazy, that it was all in my head, all of those pieces. Got so sick that I ended up having to retire from my sport, not really on my own terms. Still didn't know what was wrong with me. And it would take the next 4 years before I found out and got officially diagnosed with Lyme disease.
So Paige, you're not a veteran of our podcast. So before we get into what has brought the two of you together, talk to us a little bit about your background and what then ultimately resulted in you and Arianne working together on this project you two are working on.
Sure, yeah. So I am just a small town kid that fell in love with figure skating, worked really hard at it and overcame a lot, classic Olympic story, and competed in the Olympics in 2014, where I ended up meeting Arianne. I retired shortly after the Olympics, also not on my terms, and really was quite lost and didn't know what the heck I wanted to do with my life. And so I spent the next 4 years kind of following passions, relearning who I was and all of that fun stuff. And I ended up falling in love with mindset, the brain, what contributes to living an elite, awesome, fulfilling life. And all of that has led to me being a performance coach, primarily working with entrepreneurs prior to this project with Arianne. But the two of us, her being a friend of mine, a former Olympic athlete, and someone who is obsessed with nutrition, me being a former Olympic athlete, someone that's obsessed with mindset, we used to have these amazing conversations, and we would jokingly say, like, we should do something together someday, like we should combine forces. And well, last year we decided to do exactly that. In a nutshell, we
decided that someday should be now day.
So this is now the next step in the story that we began to tell with Arianne, which was Arianne went through a transformation. While her Lyme disease was working on her, while she was working on her Lyme disease was working on her, and that transformation caused her to want to now reach out to people in the Lyme disease community and share her story so they wouldn't feel alone, but also to share with them her different tips and also shortcuts that she learned on her journey so that people who are going through a Lyme disease challenge can have a shortcut on their diagnostic journey and a shortcut on their treatment journey. And one of the things that we've learned during our 150 plus podcast episodes is that social change is required. But we don't believe that social change is going to come from government. We don't believe that social change is going to come from academia. We certainly know social change is not coming from the medical community, and we don't believe that social change is going to come from anywhere other than the entrepreneurial arena. So with that being the case, talk to us, ladies, about how you're going to now use your experience as top level performers and the challenges that you had to overcome to become top level performers to now help people to overcome their health challenges in the Lyme disease community.
I'm getting the hand signal from Paige. She's giving me the virtual digital handguns of like, you're up.
So all right, so I'll take that. And so I'm going to ask you, Paige, first talk to us about the mindset piece and how you learned about the brain and brain function and mindset and the importance of having the proper mindset to get started on a healing journey.
Yeah, so initially these just started kind of popping up as organic conversations between Arianne and myself. Both of us have gone through a lot to get to the Olympics, and then both of us found that we were going through a lot outside of our sporting careers. So they just started off as organic conversations about how we apply things we learned as athletes into this real world setting. And we found that there's these amazing parallels. And then as Arianne got diagnosed with what we now know as Lyme disease, we found that yet again, there was another parallel where these past lessons that we had learned through mindset, adaptability, growth mindset, self-talk, all these things were being useful to her in that walk of life also. And so we just started building off of that, both just from wanting to help each other. And the more I learned about the brain and about mindset, and the more we had these conversations, Arianne would be like, oh my gosh, like that's so powerful. And then she'd share something that she was going through. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's this and this and this. That's so powerful. And so really kind of what happened was these organic conversations turned into a change that we wanted to help people make in their lives. We saw usefulness to our experiences and wanted to find a way to be able to offer that to other people.
Arianne, talk to us about your use of holistic nutrition and your background in being a chef, and how what you learned during your Lyme journey can now be used to help other people through this course.
Absolutely. So with Lyme, everyone knows everyone's going to have a different journey of going through it, right? There's no A, B, C, D. We all know that at this point. Frustrating as it is a reality we have to accept. And I think there's different pillars of healing from Lyme and chronic illness. You know, there is the medical pillar of that side of things, right? Of of medicine, whatever your path is, of supplements, all that piece. But there's also a diet and a lifestyle piece, as well as a mindset piece. And what I found is they are what you eat, drink, and think is a huge place to build a foundation for healing. If you think about it as a pyramid, if you have a teeny tiny foundation, you can't rise very high. The bigger and stronger that foundation is, the higher you can rise. If we view that higher rising as like how I'm going to heal, how far I'm going to get, how I'm going to feel. And that's what I feel like diet and lifestyle are absolutely integral parts on your healing journey that are going to bring you so far, that are going to make every other piece of what you're doing more effective. But so I was being given, advice like, okay, we got to cut out refined sugar. Let's go anti-inflammatory, right? Like cut out some dairy, cut out gluten, nutrient dense foods. And because I, at that point, was a holistic nutritionist, I was able to bring that to life. I had the knowledge, I had the skill set. From Olympic days, I knew how to break down a hard goal into daily pieces, into what I could control. I knew how to hack my way through that and see success in those changes. But what I see in a lot of other people, in clients I've worked with or other individuals that are chronically ill, having to make these huge changes are difficult. Like, well, where do I start? And what do I do? And how do I bring that to life? And now what am I going to cook? And where does that look like? And it becomes so overwhelming that you can't even start. And so I know that what you're eating, what you're drinking, those pieces are so important for chronic illness. And they're going to look a little different for every person. But that base foundation of like whole, real foods, anti-inflammatory, those pieces are critical for healing. But what I want to be able to help other people with through this course is not making it overwhelming anymore. Saying, let's use the skills we have to help people go step by step so they don't hit that stopping point of here's exactly your recipes, your grocery lists, the why behind it, you're learning, you're empowered, here's your step-by-step bringing it to life. Because while I think a lot of other people realize how important those food changes are, they just don't even know how to do them and they just get overwhelmed and stop.
So Paige, one of the things that we've seen through our podcast is that the biggest challenge folks have is just getting started, that they're undermined by their mind and they cannot cognitively overcome the challenges that their mind and mindset create for them. So can you talk to us about how your course and your experience as an Olympic athlete are going to help people to get started on their healing journey?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that Arianne and I both stand for is to be an active participant in your life. So showing up, taking ownership of your day-to-day activities, which includes what you eat, drink, and think. That being said, change is difficult. It's designed for us to go through it with difficulties. Your self-talk, what's going on in your mind. So many of us don't even realize how often we're operating on autopilot. We hear things coming into our brain and we accept them as truths because we don't know any different way of dealing with them. And so both through our mindset and our food, our approach is to educate, because you don't know what you don't know, and to help translate that education into really small, tangible actions so that you can begin to move through change in a way that's designed to help you create sustainable change, and also to give you back more of your own innate power that you didn't realize you weren't even acting upon. Does that make sense?
So Paige, it does. So one of the things we talk about here at Tech Bootcamp is responsibility. And responsibility is often thought of as sort of a dirty word, but it really means to respond with ability. And you're talking about the same thing in your course where you are responding with ability. So before we turn to Arianne, I'd like to just ask you, can you sort of put some meat on the bone about how you learned how to deal with your mindset and your self-talk so that you could overcome that and become an elite athlete? What barriers were there to you performing at the highest level that were coming from your mind and your mindset?
Yeah, I learned a lot about all of this just kind of through trial and error as an athlete. And I remember one of the most simplest yet empowering conversations I had with my sports psychologist was when I was like the tip of the iceberg, it was around self-talk. I was in a slump. I was skating terribly. I was grumpy. I was going into every day with a bad attitude. And he essentially said, listen, like, you can continue going through your day-to-day activities in the way that you are, and nothing will change. He goes, or you can actively take back control of your thoughts. He goes, this is what I want you to do. I want you to pay attention to what you're telling yourself. I want you to ask you if that is helping you or harming you. If it's harming you, I want you to change it to a thought that would help you. And I remember rolling my eyes and thinking, that's ridiculous. Like, I can't just come up with a hokey saying and it's going to change my life. But I committed to making those small changes every single day. And guess what? The guy knew what he was talking about, because I started to see positive changes. I began to question things that I had just normally accepted as truth. I began to actively take responsibility for where I wanted to go and how I was going to get there. And that little exercise in faith and responsibility and showing up for myself really showed to me, like, wow, I wonder what else could be possible if I continued to take more action based on what I wanted, not just living as a victim to whatever I got handed. So that was the tip of the iceberg, and it really opened up to me the power of our mindset. So that was the start of it all for me. And I would happily say that I've learned a lot since then that has helped me grow into where I am. But that was the beginning.
And I have a small add-on on self-talk, because the story that Paige just talked about, self-talk is a huge pillar in our course, right? And I want to give an example of how it showed up for me in chronic illness. So of course, about a year ago, I was in a really dark place. You know, I just wasn't seeing progress. I was mentally just, I was frustrated. I was like, I'm sick of being sick. I'm frustrated by this all. I'm just annoyed. I'm exhausted. I was in that dark place, and I couldn't just pull myself out. And Paige and I had a conversation, and she reminded me of the skill of self-talk that we'd honed in when we were training towards the Olympics, and belief in yourself. And she was like, you nailed that when you were an Olympian. Can we just revisit that for a second? Because I was using a lot of the language of, I'm broken, I'm always going to be broken, my body and mind are broken, like, why me? And we had a small conversation where she was like, what if you even just shifted one word from broken to healing? And I thought about that, and all I had to do was, and again, you're like, this is stupid, this isn't gonna help. Like, you're in that kind of place, but you're like, okay, as long as you're just willing to view everything as an experiment. I'm like, okay, what do I have to lose here? Let's try it. And my mindset, every time I was like, ugh, why is my body broken today? I want to go do that activity. I would shift it into, my body is healing. My body is healing today. My body is doing the best it can in healing today. And even that small shift of one word changes your mindset from being a victim to being an active participant on the same team as your mind and body.
Arianne, quick question. So a lot of our listeners are either A, in the beginning of their Lyme journey and just got diagnosed and starting their treatment, or B, years into their journey and treating with their doctors. So will your course about food and wellness and mindset and self-talk and nutritional supplements, will this course benefit people at all stages of their Lyme journey?
I think so, because the way that we've designed our course is, one, there's going to be two options. One is the 12-week amazing, incredible course that you can take at your own pace, self-study, if that feels good to you. And then there's going to be the other option, that's our live launch, where we have a group coaching element, and we're all moving through those 12 weeks together. So right there, there's a change in someone that's like, this is fascinating to me, but I feel like I might need 2 to 3 weeks to implement each of these elements into my life, right? Right there, we're trying to meet people where they might be at. And yes, everyone has to make the decision for themselves if this course is going to be right for them. But I think there's elements that are going to help both aspects of that journey. You know, one of the pieces we break down, Paige has this incredible formula and process that we go through in 4 weeks of the course of breaking down goal setting, from setting your vision to your goals down to these tangible daily goals. And while that's something we used in Olympics, it's something we both use in our entrepreneurial careers. That's so powerful in your health journey, whether it's just, if you're a few years into your diagnosis, creating that why, that vision for yourself to find purpose out of this, and drilling down into that can be so grounding and empowering. From just being diagnosed at the beginning, feeling confused, feeling overwhelmed, feeling without direction. If your big goal is heal, okay, but then what? Like, now what do I do with that goal? Right. And just breaking it down into like tangible actions. I think whichever phase you're at, our goal with this course is to have you come out after 12 weeks or after the end of you finishing the course with this huge foundation of strength, saying like, I feel like so much more capable to handle what the world's throwing at me, to be able to pivot on this journey, to be able to control what's my mindset, to be able to eat in the way that's supporting my mind and body, and all of those pieces together.
Arianne, we see so many people that I know personally and that we've interviewed on the podcast that are treating with their Lyme doctors. They're getting the proper medical treatment they need, but they're not living the right lifestyles. They're not eating the right diet. They're not focusing on sleep. They're not focusing on supplements to help build their body. And once we started talking to you about this program, right away, we thought this could benefit so many, because we know, and myself included, we know some behaviors that we need to take to get healthy and to stay healthy, but yet we deviate. And then we have these self-doubt thoughts that we're never going to get better. So it seems like this course is really catered to help these people from a diet and a wellness and a mindset standpoint to supplement and complement their medical treatment they're receiving with their Lyme-related doctors.
Absolutely. And what we feel, and not just what we feel, what science shows us, because our whole course is based not only on the experiences we've lived, but it's based in science of what works, what is powerful. And then we've distilled it down to making it in a great order, making it make sense, all of those pieces. But it's so powerful because I think that the lifestyle, the diet, the way you eat, think, and drink, it takes your medical treatment side and makes it exponential. If it's helping you 1 point, by including all of this in the base, it's like you just took that 1 point and gave it 10 times more power. That's how it works.
So Paige, Matt and I are engaging in a debate right now on the mindset versus tactics front. And I need some help from you. You see, I believe that 80% of healing is mindset. And I think only 20% is tactics. Matt doesn't like me using numbers and using these kind of statistics, but I could even argue that it's 100% mindset and 100% psychology, because if you can't get started, you can't get started and the tactics are meaningless. So talk to us about how your course, which is quite frankly what I'm most excited about, which is a little different than Matt. I'm really excited about the mindset piece and how you're going to help people to begin their healing journey and then stay on their healing journey despite their mind in many cases serving as an enemy to their healing.
Gosh, you're putting me on the spot. I don't want to pick a side, but I'm picking a side. I'm also a big fan of the mindset. Well, the reason I say that though is because even from watching Arianne move through her journey, you're asked to do a lot. You're asked to make changes, whether it be something as simple as taking these pills throughout the day, or whether it be something more tricky as changing your lifestyle. You're asked to do the things to help make you better. Now, that's great. But if you can't get into the mindset where you're consistently creating habits that support those changes, you're going to be constantly going back to square one, right? And that's what we want to help teach, is that the cycle of change actually goes through like this whole thing where relapse is a part of it. And that doesn't mean that you have to stop. It doesn't mean that you have to start completely over again. It means you build from each stumbling block, which is helpful when you're asked to make any of those new changes. Also helpful as you have to pivot and adapt throughout your healing journey, because let's face it, from what I can see, that's a constant. The mindset, the confidence, the ownership of your thoughts and the way that you're approaching everything that's thrown at you is the key thing that's going to help you consistently move the needle forward despite everything that you're going through. And in those moments when you stumble, when you fall, when you're set back, it's going to allow you to bounce back at a little bit better level. So I think that mindset is, sorry, I'm rambling. Am I rambling?
No, you're not. I love everything you're saying, but you made me really excited when you discussed the relapse piece. So I'm sorry that I was, you can see me and I'm jumping out of my seat on this.
I'm excited too, because I have a story to tell about that.
Great. So let me ask my question to Paige before you and Matt go off on your piece of this. So Paige, one of the challenges, of course, is that any journey is going to have its difficulties, right? And in many cases, what happens is a relapse will result in a mindset that you're a failure, and that causes people to quit. And it sounds to me like the beauty, or one of the beautiful elements of your program, is you're building relapse in at the very beginning, and you're preparing people for relapse so that they can see that that's a part of healing and not an enemy to healing. So can you sort of build that out for us a little bit more before we let Arianne talk about her relapse experience?
Okay, I'm actually going to pause because mine's not about a Lyme relapse. It's about what Paige is going to say. And so when we're creating this course, of course, Paige knows my content, I know her content, but we live in different places. And so a lot of time we're creating separately along with our plan that we've made. And then we would come together for these 3-week periods. And we came together to film our entire course. And half of our videos are us together, and half of them are, if they're specific to each of us, solo content. And so Paige is filming one of our modules on change. That's literally what it's on at the beginning as a foundation. So I'm kind of, behind the camera, sitting, listening, checking all the things. And Paige starts talking about change and about how the cycle of change is a circle. It's not linear. It's this constant circle. And she's like, there's the input of you change. I'm not going to have the right words because I can't remember anymore, but there's the input of change. And then there's like you actually making the change and you actually making progress, and you're moving through the circle. And she's talking, and then she goes, and then you hit the point of the circle called relapse. And I'm sitting there watching her, like, jaw dropped. Like, I know this stuff, but I hadn't heard it in that way. And she goes, relapse it's not a mistake you made when you were changing. It is a part of making the change. It is literally on the circle of change that you're supposed to go through. And I'm like picking my jaw up off the floor. And she's recording this, and I'm trying to stay serious, and I can't believe it. And I'm like, this is so important for people to know, that relapse to your old diet or your old whatever change you're making is literally on the circle. And it's not you fell off the bandwagon, and it's not you're a failure. It is part of that circle. And then Paige even walks people through, in that relapse phase, big or small, how to then move to the next part of the circle and keep leveling up.
So with that introduction, Paige, tell us about the circle and the cycle and what role relapse plays in the healing process.
So the cycle of change starts in pre-contemplation, where you're not even aware of anything that needs to change, right? You're just living your life. Then it goes to contemplation, where you're maybe thinking about making the change. Then it goes into preparation. You've decided that you want to make the change. There's a couple more steps that involves you acting on it, and you end up back at this relapse stage. Now, a lot of people tend to throw in the towel here, think that they're a failure, judge themselves, feel bad, go back to their old way of life, which is really them just going back into that pre-contemplation stage. They're just living in this world where they're like, well, the change didn't work, so I don't need it. And eventually something's going to happen that will make them go back into the contemplation stage. But you've lost such a huge chunk of time in that pre-contemplation and contemplation stage. So I think the power of the cycle of change is recognizing that you're moving through it the best you can with all of the available information. Things will happen and you'll end up in that relapse stage, and that's okay. That's a place for you to assess what happened, learn from it, skip the pre-contemplation and contemplation stage, saving yourself a bunch of time and bad habits, and just jump back into that preparation stage for what you want to do differently next time.
So that's how you
essentially
pivot.
What I see. Yeah,
okay, is that a pivot?
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So it's a small little baby pivot where you're learning and growing from the whole experience. And the hopes of knowing this is that instead of it being this like circle where you're doing the same things over and over, I'm using my hands, but it's an upward spiral. So every time you're going through that cycle, you're getting closer and closer to where you want to be, and you're staying longer in that space of success. So you're
like a slinky.
minimizing. It's like a slinky. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
but Arianne, we see in our podcast people in negative loops all the time, right? They're in these negative
Absolutely.
emotional loops, and it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. And and part of what Matt and I have been debating about, not only on whether or not I am wise to use these 80-20 stats, but what we also debate about is what causes someone to get into a negative loop and what element nutrition plays in keeping people in a negative loop, and how much of this is purely emotional and mindset, and how much of it is physiological causing the mindset challenges. So talk to us about that balance between both the mindset issues and how illness and nutrition will play a role in changing mindset and creating a positive loop.
Arianne and I both get excited about this because I think that the two work together, right? Like mindset doesn't operate in a vacuum. Your nutrition doesn't operate in a vacuum. Your illness doesn't operate in a vacuum. Everything is working together. And so if you're able to create a really great mindset, but you're feeding yourself terrible things, your body isn't going to be in the state that really help offset the mindset. If you've got this great body, you're eating really well, you're drinking, you're taking care of yourself, but the mindset's not there, you're also not going to be showing up in the way that you want to. So at the fundamental level, it's like your body is one entity, and we want to help you and make improvements from both aspects.
So Arianne, real quick.
Arianne, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was going to say absolutely. And it's kind of a chicken or the egg question, right? And Paige answered that perfectly.
Yeah.
But even just some small facts on, okay, these are my favorite facts, so I'm going to hit you with them. On the gut brain, right? Because the gut
brain
is my favorite topic. It's something that's getting so much more information that is just one more proof to us that your mind and body aren't just connected. They're one bidirectional system constantly. Even from the fact of this, so in your gut, 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. 80% of your serotonin, which is your happy, motivated neurotransmitter, is made in your gut. Now, if your gut is inflamed because of inflammatory foods that you're eating, a typical North American, it's called a SAD diet, a standard American diet that's very inflammatory, your body will always prioritize inflammation over any other problem. So therefore, if your gut is constantly inflamed because what you're feeding it 3 to 5 times a day, it's going to put all of its energy into, oh my gosh, we got to deal with this inflammation. We got to put out this fire. This is our priority team. Everyone put your resources towards that. And therefore, it's not putting resources towards, let's boost our immunity up. Let's make all these beautiful neurotransmitters that are going to make us happier. Like food literally impacts your entire immune system and as well your mood. So when you've honed that in and you're eating all these nutrient dense, low inflammatory foods, in a way that feels good in your life in an 80-20 way, all of a sudden you're literally sending the message to your body and giving it more energy to go, oh, hey guys, we're feeling good. Why don't we boost our immune system a little bit today? Why don't we make more of these incredible neurotransmitters? They're going to help us feel happier, feel more motivated. And now at that point, you feel more motivated to take on the new challenges. So again, to echo Paige's point, the two are completely interlinked and can't even be taken apart.
And Arianne, this problem is only compounded by having Lyme and co-infections because that impacts your gut negatively as well. So if you can address your gut inflammation through nutrition, you're giving your body a fighting chance to heal. And so much of your course overview has Lyme concepts like this baked into it to help people with Lyme disease. And one of the things that I think was so important in your course overview is to recognize that you need to overcome these sneaky sugar cravings that you get. And unfortunately, Lyme causes you to crave sugar even more because the sugar feeds the Lyme disease and allows it to replicate. So can you talk to us about how your course addresses the sugar cravings and helps people overcome those cravings?
Yes. So this is one of my favorite parts of the course. I got really excited about it because that's exactly your point, Matt, right? Okay, you're told you have Lyme, you got to cut out the sugar. It's super the refined sugar, right? It's super inflammatory. It's not helping you. It's tough on your gut, all these pieces. And then simultaneously, your brain is giving you crazy sugar cravings and it's all you want. And so how are you supposed to balance those two things, right? It's really easy when someone says, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to give up refined sugar. And then your brain goes, no, thank you. We're really interested in eating all these foods right now, right? It's like it's a constant uphill battle. And so taking out refined sugar was one of the most impactful things I've ever done in my life. It completely changed my life for a 30-day challenge. And so what we've actually implemented into the course is at about midway through our 12-week program, we do a 30-day no refined sugar challenge. Except at this point, not only have I lived it, I've walked countless clients through it, and I've figured out a process of how it works, how to break it down week by week into ways that takes away all the overwhelm, all of the anxiety around it, gives you all the empowering skills, like that we prep, you learn all these steps through it so that all of a sudden when you're in this take out refined sugar for 30 days, you feel equipped with all the skills you need. Like 1 week entirely is all about overcoming those cravings, and 10 different ways you can do it that might match what works for you. And then the cool thing about that is it's 30 days, and by this point we've taught you the mindset that like, let's lean in with curiosity. Let's be an active participant in showing up, and you can do anything for 30 days. And hell, if you make a mistake and you relapse, that's part of change. We deal with that too. But then at the end of 30 days, I can guarantee you, you're going to feel like a different person in your body. And then you get to move forward 80-20. Like, life is also important to have some of these tasty, delicious foods sometime. So move forward in a balanced way that works for your journey and where you're at.
All right, so Paige, I'm in. I'm taking the course. Can you tell us how we can share with our listeners how they could also join and join you and join your course and participate? I understand that you're launching on March 14th. So give us some of the specifics on how people will be able to join me, who's going to be joining you and taking the course.
Well, can't wait to have you in the course. We are going to share a link with you guys. You can sign up for the waitlist for master classes that we're actually going to be doing in those 2 weeks leading up to the start of the course. We're so excited about the information we want to share that we're like, well, let's just start sharing it. So you can sign up for those master classes, get to know us, start to get to know some of the content, begin to move in the right direction, and ask us any questions that you may have at that point in time. You can follow us on Instagram in the same breath and ask us any questions also in the meantime.
Yeah, and then we're gonna as well, the amazing team here at Tick Bootcamp, if you're on their email list, if not, sign up. They're gonna be sending out tons of information on, if you're someone with Lyme and brain fog, hi, I totally get that. All you gotta do is sign up for their email or sign up in our Instagram bios for our emails. And all this information is going to come right to your inbox. You're going to click on a button. You're going to watch that. We're going to make it so seamless and easy for your brain to handle.
And Arianne, talk to us about, you so generously have offered to provide a discount to people in the Lyme community. So can you talk to us more about why you decided to do that and how people can take advantage of that?
Yeah, so we're going to give all the listeners here of Tick Bootcamp their own code. Again, sign up for our email list through Instagram, through our websites, or sign up with Tick Bootcamp's email list. And they're going to send out that code specifically to use when you sign up, because we wanted to give people this financial discount, because obviously Lyme is something near and dear to my heart, right? And I have this perspective right now that if I'm able to help 1 or 2 or 5 people through this, like if that's the other side of having to go through that and still go through it, right? I think that's something I want to mention to the Lyme community who's signing up for this course. I'm not perfectly well. I'm still right now on this journey of getting better, but yet I'm using all of these skills and pivoting every day and all of that. And it's allowed me to live a very full life right now. So like, I get it. Absolutely. And I was like, I really just want to support this Lyme community in any way that I can. Creating the course is one way, and giving them a discount to just support them financially, to get their foot in the door if that helps. We have payment plans put together just to help that community, because I just want more people to feel better, because I really believe you can.
Thank you for listening to the Tick Bootcamp interview with our Olympian guest, Arianne Jones and Paige Lawrence. To our listeners, we have a call to action. First, if you'd like to learn more about Arianne Jones and Paige Lawrence and their business tools, please visit their Instagram pages at Paige Lawrence Coaching and Arianne Jones. Second, if you enjoyed this episode of the Thick Bootcamp podcast, please share with your friends by using the social media buttons you see at the bottom of our post. Third, Thick Bootcamp recommends that you join Arianne Jones and Paige Lawrence with the launch of their Podium Performance program beginning tomorrow, March 14th. Fourth, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify to get your automatic episode updates of our Thick Bootcamp podcast. And finally, please take a minute to leave us an honest review and rating on iTunes or on our website. Thank you as always for listening.